Thank you, Sherelle. I love that. Judy just asked, did I know Frank Stella? Yes, I did know Frank Stella. He passed away yesterday. Judy, so I'm answering you. He was an amazingly nice man, a little neurotic, but amazingly kind. He's the only artist I know who had 2 solo museum shows at the Museum of Modern Art, but that is also because his former dealer was the brother of the director of MoMA. But I loved the series he did on Jewish shuls that he had to show at the Jewish Museum. What I love about his work is that he always innovated new things. He was somebody who really changed the way not only he made art, not only the way he saw art, but the way he made art. But I also want to talk about another amazing Jewish artist, Richard Serra, who just died also. So since you brought up Frank Stella, I wanted to bring up him also. Anyway, yes, we will somehow, I will speak about him. I don't think I ever gave a lecture on Frank Stella. I know I did on Richard Serra because he's one of my favorites, but there's a lot to say about the early work of Frank Stella. And I'll say one funny joke that I love that I've heard many people say. I love Sean Scully, and people sometimes say Sean Scully's a great artist, but what's great about him is he took 2 years of Frank Stella's career and made a career out of it. And what I mean by that, if you look at early Frank Stella's and you look at all the work by Sean Scully, you'll see he borrowed very heavily from the early Frank Stella. They were called, Frank Stella did these beautiful black and white herringbone paintings. And they're really the precursors, I think, of Sean Scully's work. So we have an amazing day today. The truth is, I talked to Ari, who you all know I love, and I said, there's so many shows. I could do another lecture before the end of the spring, because the best exhibitions on right now, what happens is, and why I picked to have my show opening in New York in May, is everyone knows the best months in New York are April, May, and June. That's when you see the biggest blockbuster shows. And then again in September, October, November. So my show at the Eldridge Street, when they said to me, what dates do you want? I said, well, I really would love to open in May and close in November. So I'm having to show up for 6 months, because the best times to look at work are really in those 3 periods. So again, please God, we'll see each other, and maybe I'll do, as Sherelle said, I'll do a walkthrough for my show there, and then other shows in the fall. But I want to start with an artist who I really admire, whose name is Jim Dine, and this is his early work from the 60s. I'm never uptight if you ask me questions. Sherelle is better at reading all the questions than I do, but I try and look at your comments as well. But we're going to start with a show. It's at 125 Newbury. Today, we're doing exhibitions in Tribeca, because Chelsea is still the main neighborhood, but Tribeca has become the other huge neighborhood. And this gallery is called 125 Newbury Street. And anyone who comes from the Boston area knows that 125 Newbury Street was the first gallery of Pace. Pace was Arnie Glimcher's gallery. We saw a show last month, 2 shows of Pace artists, but I think I told you then, Pace is named in memory of his father, Pesach Glimcher, and I love that he now names this gallery 125 Newbury Street in honor of his first gallery in Boston. And what he does there is he shows more museum-type shows. So we're seeing, with just a few work from the 60s of Jim Dine. So we're going to start with a video of Jim Dine, and he'll talk to us, and then I'll show you the show. It's a very powerful show.
Toby, this video or this one? Which one?
Both. I want to do both. Start with that one first. It's a very quick one. It's 1 minute and 42 seconds.
Jim Dine is an American artist who now lives and works in London, England. While growing up, he said he daydreamed a lot and he didn't feel as smart as his other classmates. He said he wasn't a very good student in school because he was dyslexic and couldn't read very well. He's most known for paintings of tools and hearts, among other things. At one time, He even decided to glue the tools directly into his paintings. We won't be gluing anything to our painting, but let's try to make some hearts using wax resist. Remember, wax resist is when...
We're gonna skip to the next one over here.
Santa Hell, and it's photographed. This book was called Santa Hell, and it's photographs I took of these Santa Clauses that move to Jingle Bell Rock. But you'll see what I mean. I painted them and surrounded them with puppets in this kind of Christmas nightmare. I'm Jim Dine, 73 years old. We're on 25th Street in Manhattan at Pace Gallery. And I'm building an exhibition that relates to and features a project I've been working on for a year, 52 books. I've drilled a hole in each book and hung them so that people can enjoy the book. This is a book about tools, but it's photographs of tools. I grew up with tools. I came from a family of people who sold tools, and I've always been enchanted by these objects made by anonymous hands. This one is called, this is an example of really going into my head and not being verbal about why I did it. A lot of the books are based on my handwriting. A lot of the books, I've come to believe my handwriting, and that it is an extension of my draftsmanship. This is a long poem I wrote for the exhibition that's at the Getty Villa in Malibu now. This is a facsimile of this is the paper I tacked on the wall to write the thing with. So I wrote it with a marker and white out and corrected that way. And here, this is a wall of just outtakes from the books that I just covered the wall with. The way I write poetry is mainly by tacking a big sheet of paper on the wall and writing it on the wall, on the paper, and then correcting with gesso. I'll go across with gesso, let it dry, take another word in, or I take a box cutter, cut out the word, put in a new word. So it is a collage method too. And this room, I've devoted to photographs of my Pinocchio sculpture and a sculpture of Pinocchio. When I was a child, I saw the Disney film. I was 6 years old. It really stayed with me. It was indelible. If you were a little boy and your nose is going to grow if you lie, and I was lying. And, it's a metaphor for art. It's, this guy's given a talking stick, and through trials and tribulations, after he carves a puppet, the kid becomes human. And so you're bringing something to consciousness. It's just what artists do. The whole exhibition is fueled and driven by my ability to look and my ability to draw and to observe closely. I've done this all my life. I never thought I was going to be anything else but an artist. I never had a choice. It's all I can do.
Great. So I thought this was the perfect way to start the program today. So now we're going to see the show that he had up right now. I think it closed today or yesterday. But I want to show you the pieces because I just love each individual piece. So we're going to start with the first piece. It's called 5 Ties. And what he did is, you have to remember, this is the 60s. This is when Andy Warhol was doing his stuff. This is when Jackson Pollock was doing his stuff. I mean, I want you to put them in context. That to me is so important. And this is really in the beginning of pop art. And these are ties. And you can see there's a piece of string on the top, and the ties are painted and glued to the surface. Now, you're going to say to me, what about Rauschenberg? Or maybe you're not going to say it to me, but I'm going to say it to you. Rauschenberg put tons of information on there. He is basically a minimalist. It's a beautiful painting, and it's all in silver, and they're two equal sized canvases that are put next to each other. So that's number one. Let's go to the next one. Now, I think it's very powerful, and that's why I showed you the second video. He says that he likes writing on his paintings. And this is the blonde and the girl and girls, and you think to yourself, wow, was he a big influence on Cy Twombly? And the answer is yes. And the other thing is he's also playing with primary colors. You remember, I'm talking to you, and if you know it, then you know it. If you don't know it, I'll teach you that as we go on. But primary colors are red, blue, and yellow. And he's playing with you on that. And he's also, as he said, you remember he said in the video, he whites out the mistakes he makes. I love that you see him putting white on the canvas. Canvas is raw. That is raw canvas. Now you'll think about people like Helen Frankenthaler, who was one of the first women to use raw canvas, and she stained it with oil and then later acrylic. And she becomes a huge influence on Kenneth Noland and Morris Lewis. But what I love about here is, if I told you this was done now, and many of my younger students at SVA love this work because it looks very fresh, and it's really 60-something years old. Let's go to the next one. So it's very much about a thought. Now, this is my favorite piece in the show. And when you look at this, it's called first version. This is, you look at it and you say to yourself, and I can't see I'd love to hear your reactions, but it makes me think of people like Monet and people like all the Impressionists who are doing stuff with the way blades of grass move. I don't know if you see the movement here. I find it beautiful. And then he attaches all the tools on the bottom. So it's, in other words, how do you get this beautiful field moving? Well, you have these tools to do it. And he attaches the tools to the work. I love this piece. In fact, this is by far my favorite piece in the show. It also makes me think about people like Joan Mitchell, who knows how to do movement. So you think about Monet, and you think about Joan Mitchell, and then you think about him, and there's a beautiful continuity there. I'm very curious. I'd love to have like a minute or two conversation. So Shirel, see what anyone says on there. How do you feel? Do you feel the tools are taking away from the work, or do you like the tools as an addition? That's a taste issue. I love it. Let's go to the next one. But if you have any answers, I'd love to hear them. Let's go to the next. So this, to me, is the part that my students at SVA said, Toby, this is what you give us for homework assignments. Come on, this is ridiculous. And I'd say, yes, these are color charts. And, oh, I'm so happy Judy likes the the tools. So I said to my class, if this was his only piece of work, it would be terrible. But you're seeing the way his brain is working for the way he paints all his other paintings. So like he showed you in that museum show that he showed you in Tate, that's why I showed you that video. There may be 50 videos of Jim Dine. I picked those two for reasons, because he wants to basically take away, you know, like in the Wizard of Oz, you move the screen and you see everything behind it. He's showing you how he comes up with his colors. I find that fascinating. Would I want to own this piece of art? Definitely not. But there's a different, in a historical show, to see this, I find it very exhilarating. Let's go to the next. Now, this to me, I don't know if any of you, I just find, can you move it up so I can tell? I think it's bronze. Can you move it up a little, Shirel? It says underneath what it is if you move up the image. It's usually written right below. All right. Oh, no, you moved it over back.
No.
All right. It is bronze, but I forgot if it's on bronze on something else. But it's a very large boot. And what's interesting to me is, I don't know if any of you remember, but Jasper Johns did a whole thing of flashlights and beer cans. And I find this really interesting about taking a very regular household object like a boot or a shoe and putting it in there. Years later, Robert Gober did a very famous series of pieces of legs coming out of a wall, and he attributes seeing this piece, and that's what you begin to notice, that all artists are very influenced by what other artists do in the past. And remember, this is 2024. This was done in the 60s. It's been around for a long time. Now, this is such a powerful piece to me. This, you see a twig on the top, and you see the saw that can cut the wood on the bottom, and the piece is sitting on an easel leaning against a wall, and the colors are just so vibrant and make you think of spring. I think this is a beautiful, and the piece is called Jane. And I think it's a very romantic piece. And remember, not everyone's a figurative artist. Some of his work is more figurative. This is much more about emotional. If you look at the colors, it makes me think of Paul Klee. It makes me think about what color can do to you emotionally. And those are the pieces in the show. You go down a little further. Those are all, oh, there it is. Thank you. I'm so happy. Cast aluminum cushioned wooden plate. So it's cast aluminum. It wasn't bronze. That's what I was worried about. So when it says inquire below, that means all of these works are for sale. And if you really are serious in buying, you write inquire. They send you a note. They find out who you are. They find out if you see, oh, thank you. Shirelle, you are so, I love working with you. So then you'd put your name, your address, and your message, and then they decide if you're good enough to be allowed to purchase it. These works are being placed rather than sold. And I don't know if you know the difference between the two. Oh, don't do that. Oh, yeah, that's cute. But you'd write your name, and then you'd send it and submit it to them, and then they would get back to you and say if it's for sale or if it's not. So that's show number 1 for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I loved it. You always have to tell me what you think. Now, this is one of my favorite shows. I want to show you the video of her. I love her work, not like her work. I think she's a genius. She's a Pulitzer Foundation Award winner.
The way your body feels really affects the way you see things. That was sort of the impetus behind this. My name is Sarah Crowner, and the exhibition is called Around Orange. The painting that I'm showing at the Pulitzer Art Foundation is a 75-foot long frieze. The paintings are hung horizontally in response to the Ellsworth Kelly, which is hanging in an adjacent space. Because it's so large, one's body needs to be active in the reading of this artwork. I liked the idea that this frieze kind of moves from the indoors and then pierces through to the outside and becomes an outdoor painting. The mosaic outside, that is about the relationship of an artwork to its exterior surroundings, concrete versus terracotta. In the entrance gallery, I designed a curved wooden platform. It's something that you can step up onto and view the white plaque and the small collage in such a way that you have an awareness of your body. I've always been interested in that moment when, you see something from far away and it might feel very graphic and simple, and you discover at some point along that walk up to the painting that it's not flat. It's actually an object that's been made by joining bodies of color together. You begin to understand that it's maybe not what you thought. Some of my paintings have kind of wild, squirrely, curvy forms, but that's an intentional foil to the hard geometry of blue-black. I just started with blue-black, and then I ended up playing around a lot. The truth is, paintings really do change according to their surroundings, especially because I work so much with color. Being able to see my artwork in a space that's constantly moving was a revelation. I think the best thing that I can offer is that people slow down, they're quiet, and they pay attention, not just to my paintings, but to the space that they're standing in, to their surroundings.
Okay, now we're going to go to her show. Now, this show is just breathtaking. And I want to start with the paintings and then go to the sculptures. Now, these paintings, you think, I don't know if you know what they are, but now you read it, you can see it. It's acrylic on canvas and sewn. So what she does is she paints on these big pieces of canvas, and then she sews them together to make the colors. Now, when your eye gets used to it, I don't know if you can see, it's an orange, orange, red, orange again, and then there's white. So it makes you think of other historically famous artists who work like this. It makes you think of people like Ellsworth Kelly. It makes you think about other colorists. But what's so beautiful, when you go in the room, I wanted to buy one of them. I have no room for it, and the whole show was sold out. So it was good on 2 counts, because I wouldn't have had to call up my wife and say, we're going to have to take everything down and put this up. But you feel like you're entering the color. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. I started with Jim Dine and went to this because I wanted you to see. Sherelle, is there any, oh, well, let's go to another one. You'll see it better in another one. Go to the next one. That's what I mean. Can you all see with your, thank you, Sherelle, I love you. Do you see how beautiful all those different oranges are, and the white and then the lighter orange? You see in there, can you see that all, everyone? I hope you can. It's so beautiful, and you stand there and your eye gets tricked, because first you think it's nothing, and then it made me think a lot. You're going to laugh at me. I don't know if anyone else thinks this. It made me think of the late pieces of Matisse, of the way he does cutouts. But there's something very playful and joyful and meditative all at once. It makes you think you're in a garden. Go to the next one. I love that next one too. Do you see all those subtle changes? They almost look like you're in a garden with leaves, and the way the light hits the leaves. It's just so beautiful. And the next one's even better. I love that one, because look at that purple. If you can blow that up to, yeah, look at that. You see in the purple, it looks like now you see it's all these different sewed areas. Do you even, thank you, Sherelle, you're showing it beautifully. Very subtle color changes. And it makes you feel like you're meditating. And I always tell people, a great piece of art looks different after 3 minutes of looking at it. I'm sure you all know this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Most people look at art for less than 30 seconds. So if you give them a minute or two, I think she's saying I'm going to give you more joy. That, again, so beautiful. And I'll show you the next one's the one I was going to buy, but it was sold anyway. I think this is so glorious. It looks like that is floating in space. And it makes me think of a woman's body. And I think it makes me think of romance. And I think, it brings to mind so many different elements that, that abstraction can be geometric abstraction and organic abstraction. And this is typically organic abstraction, because it's very abstract, but you still see remnants of reality. That's a good way to call it, remnants of reality. Now we're going to see the sculptures in the show. You go down right below. There they are. Oh, look at that green one. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that is beautiful too. That's acrylic on canvas and it's sewn. And that's the one that really makes me think of Matisse. Now let's go to the bronzes. Look at those. Oh my God. Some of her pieces are tiny, and these are, it's called stone. And she picks up stones on the beach and then casts them. So you can see this is 16 inches by 12 by 10. Let's go to the next one. They're very small. This is 8 by 5. Oh, I love that too. Now, do I think she's influenced by Brancusi? Yes, I do. Does it bother me? No. Does it make me think of Jean Arp? Yes, it does, but it doesn't bother me, because she's taking it and moving it into a whole other direction. But again, she's taking these based on little stones that she finds and then casts them. I think I just love the whole thing. And they look beautiful in the exhibition. That if I had to buy one, that's the one I'd buy. That's 11 by 5 by 4. And that's the one that makes me really think about as if Arp and Brancusi merged and had a baby, and she was the baby. So you see how she's playing, again, this is very organic abstraction. It looks something real, and by the way, it is real because it's based on a stone that she found, but she's playing with us. So that's the show. That's show number 2. I hope you understand why I put them next to each other. Now we're going to the next show. Sherelle, am I going too quickly? Good. Now, this is so much fun. I wanted to give you all a fun exhibition, and this is very tiny works on paper. And this is from the Biennale in 2022. So now we're going to see this, and then we'll see the show in the gallery.
My work in general is focused on research on drawing and on the various experimentation around. The word that I use usually to describe my work is drawn forms, because in my work, drawing is in interaction with different material, different shapes. It takes different shape, can be installations, single drawings, animation, etc. In the statement of the curator, of Shobigi, she spoke about the power of satire and humor, for example. And this makes sense for me because my work is related to that questions a lot. And when we spoke, she was also interested in my practice of drawing in general. I think she really wanted to show some works on paper, some drawings. And we focused on works that brings this relation between comedy and tragedy, how humor or satire can be a powerful tool to depict complex situations. There is a group of drawings, 4 drawings, that are made with absurd situations. All the character was collected from press photography, put them together to create a kind of mise en scène, a situation that is unlikely to happen. It seems, but if you look closely, you see that maybe the scales of the situation itself looks very, very strange. There are signs of conflict, like walls, or the use of architecture, kind of an instrument of power, or to divide the space, or to contain the space.
So now you'll see the exhibition. I wanted you to see artists who use all different scales. So these are very small works on paper. They're like 11 by 14. And then you'll see the individual pieces and some of the videos. So we can get these larger. So when I took my students at SVA, they said to me, Toby, do you think this is like a whole show of covers of the New Yorker? And I laughed and I said, wow. That is so funny because they have a very interesting sense of humor. And the way he puts thoughts together is quite beautiful. And he makes shadow boxes for each of the works. So when you go in the show is laid out almost like a storyboard. And then he has individual pieces on the wall of all different sizes. So I wanted to show you that you have to, I love this. So it's like a story inside of a story. So you see, it's very three-dimensional, and the pencil drawing is beautiful. There's another artist who has a show opening this week called Amy Cutler at in Chelsea, and I would love to have put the shows next to each other, but she wasn't open yet, at DC Moore Gallery. But I want you to understand that works on paper are as serious as works on canvas or on bronze, and I wanted you to see a show that is just very, very sensitive, and it's not painting, it's drawing. Let's go to the next, and the videos even look like, again, look at this. It's just, I love the way he's taking you into a story about looking at one thing that's going into another that's really a billboard of the sky. Let's go to the next. unfortunately very hard to see. Let's go to the next. That's the only problem with his work. He's not so easy to show online, but I wanted you to see it anyway. And I wanted you to see serious artists who I love these ladders. I mean, he invents spaces that don't exist. And he's so dogmatic about it that you start to believe him. And that, I think, is what makes a great artist. Do you see the way you're looking at an open space? It's like the Twilight Zone. And you just see inside of one space that has another space and a third space. And I like that the look at that, all that paper around when you're seeing this figure looking at this small tree below, but it's all collaged together. And it's like building the spaces. You're watching an artist build the spaces in drawing. And there's a little bit of satire there. Like he writes then and he puts something in the sky. Can you blow that up, Sherelle, so they can see what's written there?
For some reason, it doesn't allow me to blow them up. I've been trying.
By the way, I think they're very neurotic about people trying to copy the work, because it's very easily copyable. So I can understand that. I want to get them to see thumbnails now. Can you show them yeah, that is a beautiful piece too. That's a collage of a rock. But I want to show you the installation, and once you see it, you'll understand more. There, doesn't it have a thing to go to the side? Yeah, there they are, right there. Now, right below it, you see it? It shows you different pictures there. So do you see now? I want you to see how you'd go into the gallery and how you would see it. Let's go to the next one. You see there's a video all the way on the top on the left, right. And then you see, and it makes you also think of one of the Kentridge, William Kentridge, does beautiful, very amazing videos. And Sherelle, thanks for writing these notes down and then sending everybody all this information, because I teach this as if you're all in a master's class. I mean, I'm trying to cram as much information. And Sherelle, thank you for giving them I don't know if you remember when we were all younger, there were things called Monarch notes, and it gave you a quick thing of everything. So this is the Monarch notes, and there you see the video on the top. He's doing the video that is based on some of the drawings he made, but then he animates the whole thing. I debated whether to show it to you, but I had to show it to you because I know you can't be with me to see it, but I want you to at least experience that most gallery shows you go to are huge paintings. Now, this is another interesting thing. Is you see the way this tire is put on there? You see those? Oh, you know this. The tire's there, but look at the way those four things are attached. You know what those are? Sherelle, I bet you know. Those are magnets.
Paper, so yes.
Yes, so these are magnets that they put into the wall. They put a piece of metal so it feels like the paper is floating. I thought that was such a brilliant idea for that piece. And here you see the rock and the little sculptures. So that's that show. We're going to the next one. I'm watching my time very neurotically. Now, Philip Pearlstein, I want to talk about him for a minute. He was a mensch of a mensch. He also died this year or last year. One of the nicest artists you could ever meet. I met him when I was very young and he was teaching at Brooklyn College. He was roommates and very close friends with Andy Warhol, and their careers took very different turns. And I'm very proud to say his career is going on a really nice trajectory now. But he was very famous as a young man and then never partied. He married a really wonderful woman and had their own life, and they didn't do all the party scene. But he never was angry at Warhol, and Warhol was always friendly with him. And they stayed very close, even though their careers totally went in different directions. So let's go look at this. This is an earlier video. This is 9 minutes, but I love every minute of them. I hope you don't mind that I'm showing it to you. Sherelle, if you think after 6 minutes we should stop, we will, but I don't want to, but I leave it up to you. Let's go.
I'm 82. I guess I started being serious the 10th grade in high school. I was very lucky, and because in the 11th grade, painting I had done in the 10th grade won the National Scholastic High School Contest. And the painting was reproduced in Life magazine. Well, two of my paintings were in an article on the National Scholastic High School show. And then I went on for my senior year in high school. Then came World War II, which disrupted everything. So there was kind of a 3-year lost period. In 1950, I went back to college, NYU Institute of Fine Arts, got a degree in art history. At the same time, I was working as a graphic designer. And that lasted roughly till 1958. I got a Fulbright fellowship to go to Italy. The attempt at precision comes from those years I spent doing graphic design. Graphic design then was all, you had the head man who did the layout, designed the page, designed whatever was happening on the page. And then people like me would have to draft it. Everything was done with ruling pens and compasses and rulers, pica rulers. You had to make it look like it was done by machine. You got rid of yourself. It meant touching up a lot, spending a lot of time with white poster paint, touching up crooked edges or ragged edges. I mean, the abstract expressionist thing was the big influence on everybody in New York during the late 1950s and into the 60s. And that was existential. You could never be finished. It could always be different. You could always do it from a slightly different angle, a different combination of brush marks and so forth. A de Kooning painting is never complete. And we all worked like that. My paintings were also getting clearer and clearer. I wasn't searching anymore. I was coming up with definitive pictures of naked people. No hesitations. Some of these objects began creeping in. Mostly it's been Americana, like that Mickey Mouse. I have several Mickey Mouses, who's a great icon. But there are a number of other things. I collected a lot of stuff when I moved into this place, which was much bigger than my previous studio, but it was about 25 years ago. The stuff that had been sort of pushed into corners because my studio was small, suddenly was all over the place. And I simply began incorporating them in the setups with the models. Most of the positions that the models take come from them. It's what makes, they have to be comfortable and more or less interested in what they're doing.
Sherelle, we're going to stop in a minute. 1 minute. I want you to see this.
Strictly interested in the way ordinary people look. And that became part of the kind of philosophy, in a sense, to paint the ordinary, the everyday, not to go out of my way to make them tell some kind of story, to be actors in a drama or a comedy, not to do anything satirical with them, and not to get involved in their personal lives. Models were not the fashion world models, to say the least. I mean, these were quite ordinary people, nice, healthy, and that was it. I never really got into that thing of doing beautiful people.
All right, we can stop right there, right there. You can watch the rest of it later. Now, the reason I want to show you this, remember, this is the same time Jim Dine is doing his work and Andy Warhol is doing his soup cans. So now I want to see the show. Now, this, I'm very happy for Philip Pearlstein, even though he's not alive anymore, because he left his gallery, whose name was Betty Cunningham, because she was closing. And now he is doing something brilliant because he's showing you in the middle of the gallery the props that he used. Shirel, you're so good at this. Wow. You're seeing all the props. So let's walk into the show. He was such a nice man. I met him for lunch quite often. So you see what what the gallery did here. So they're showing you his props. Now, he once told me late in his life, we were having lunch because he and I had the same accountant. And he said to me once, Toby, you should keep all your props. And I said, why? And he goes, because I think my props are worth more money now than my paintings. And I burst out laughing. He goes, the Navajo rugs that I have? And I said, yes. He goes, I have over 100 of those. Navajo rugs now sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I said, well, maybe one day, Philip, your paintings will too. He goes, I don't know about that. The Navajo rugs, I know will. But now I'm very happy that people are looking at his work more seriously again. My favorite thing he said was that he was not interested in doing famous models, and he was not interested in doing models that were beautiful. He just wanted models who were ordinary people. And I think when you look at his work, you understand that. It's composition. Let's look at the next one. You'll see what I mean. It's just a regular person sitting at the beach. And very often these are done, it's called figure props. That's the installation view, but it's just figures on a beach. I love the way the skin looks. He's just a really beautiful painter. Let's go to the next. He did some beautiful projects in Israel too. He went to Israel and did beautiful watercolors there. And that Navajo rug that I'm showing you there, and that chair, that's what he was joking. Those I think are worth more because he bought them in bulk. I knew somebody that knew him from flea markets, and he had a great eye, like buying those Mickey Mouses that he bought. And you remember Jim Dine also bought Pinocchio. Many artists through history buy things that they work from or on. I do that too, because you like painting images over and over again. The most famous artist like that is Morandi. Morandi did the same bottles for his entire career. I wish I could have taken you to this show too. I just think it's so beautiful putting the drawings next to the paintings. It's a beautiful installation. And I felt the same thing about the last show we saw about how you place images on a wall. Now, you're not going to necessarily look at that as so beautiful again. They feel like, and this is what's called foreshortening, that you see the legs and everything that really looks like they're really lying there. And that's my favorite installation view of the show. All his pieces in the middle, walking around and seeing the paintings. So I send you all the information. We can look at anywhere. Look at that beautiful one with the boat, the second one, the pond boat. I love that one. He's a beautiful painter. And look at that deer. Oh, I'm having so much fun showing this to you. I liked him so much as a person as well. In a funny way, they have an abstraction to them. And by the way, in his studio, I went to his studio. It was right near the New York Times. He originally lived on 80-something Street on the West Side. in a brownstone. And then he moved to this beautiful loft. And in the space, he had different sections of his studio set up, and he would leave the setup there. So when the models came back, they could just sit there. So there were maybe like 6 little stall areas where all the props were there. And when the models came in, they sat in those spaces and then came back until the next time. Go back one, Sherelle, because look at that on the wall behind that one. You see a painting on the wall. You see the legs, and you know who did things like that all the time was Matisse, that you would see other pieces in theirs in the background. All right, next show, because I'm watching my time. Let's go through the rest of the paintings quickly. I want you to see them all. Look at that drawing. Oh, I mean, they're such good. I mean, I don't know if it's your taste, but they're beautifully articulated. And obviously, he was more interested in women than men, because most of his pictures are of women. He does men too, but there's a man. He doesn't do them as much. All right, now we're seeing such a beautiful show.
You want to start with the video, with this video?
Yes, I always like the video for it because they get to understand more about the artist that way without me saying anything. So I feel we become more on even grounds.
My name is Kaloki Nyamai. I'm an artist from Nairobi, East Africa, and welcome to my studio. I have 2 spaces here. The one you see behind me, and the other one that I'm taking you there now. The space where when I'm working and I'm finished work on the other side, I come and put the work up so I can see how the work look and mistakes that I see in it and things that I did not actually put, or the intentional thing that I have not put, or an intentional thing that have come up. So here it's like I use it as a view room for myself. Yes. So this is like a view room, a touch-up place, or a finishing space.
Look at the way he puts things together, because you're going to see it in the show. You'll see exactly how he works.
This is a series that I'm working on. It's a series about spaces, human spaces. I'm stitching the pieces together. So it's like stitching a community that has been wounded together, as stitching human together. Sometimes it's quite hard to know when the work is finished or not. But until that time, I feel the work is finished. So yeah, like this one, I feel that I finished it. This one, I don't feel I finished it. And the other one, I think it's finished. I think it's finished. Maybe tomorrow I'll change my mind. Like the work you're seeing in the view room right now, the touch-up room, is it's a different series that I have been working on. And this series is about human existence and human within the spaces where they are. Let's go to where I usually work. I'm taking you to my studio space where I'm mostly working. This is where when someone just comes to visit, or a place where I sit, just observing the work. And then this is my studio. This is what I'm working on at the moment. I like working on many pieces at once. So it makes easier for me. If I'm working on this one and then I get stuck, I can continue working on the other one. Because my work is all about putting layers, a lot of layer. And it's just like piling and piling and piling of this, piling and piling and piling of information. So I will use a newspaper to stick on it, and then I will use papers and stick on it, and then paint again, stick on something, paint again, stick on something, until I feel it has reached a point where the work has communicated and the work is ready. And then after that is when I start working on the details. One of the biggest materials is also stitches, to stitch the work together.
All right, now we can go into the show. I'm sorry if I was not speaking loud enough. I apologize.
Toby, this one or this one? Which?
This one. We're going to see the whole show. So this, to me, you understand now what he does is he stretches the work and he puts them in there. And I don't know if you can see it yet, but maybe when Sherelle uses her genius and she's going to show you the faces of the people. Go back, go back up. Right in there, go close to the, do you see the faces that he puts in there? And it's beautiful material in the background and the faces sit inside of it. It's such a powerful exhibition, but I wanted you to see how he works in the studio. And I loved hearing the rooster in the background. And I love when he says, I'm going from one of my studios to the other. It's a real schleppy, he's not a real studio, but that's how he works. And I love that he has the plants in between. Let's go to the next image. Now you can see that he sews. Now I did this on purpose. I didn't want them right next to each other, but you see the Sarah Kroner, she also sews, but he sews and collages. So you see how the figures become part of the paintings. I had so much fun planning today's. I love this painting because it feels like dancing and movement, and it's just such beautiful, and it's all he doesn't have a big color spectrum. He uses only one or two colors in each painting. But I hope you can all see. I'm using you as Shirel as an example because you didn't know his work before. Can you see how he plays with the figures inside of the space? Good. So you get foreground, middle ground, background, and it's not obvious at all. But you feel, and I also love that he's using his African background. So the figures are in space, but it's a very abstracted space. So what he does is he explained to you in the video, he collages, he puts things down on the floor, he brings them up again, and then he looks to find the images in there to bring out the images in the paintings that he wants. But you should know these are only framed after they're done. In other words, when he's working on it, that's why I wanted you to see the video. That is how the video is done you see the way they're done in the space. All right, so that's the next exhibition. If you have any questions, don't be shy. I love answering anything you want to know. And I tried to show you artists of all different ages. Now, this is a show that's very close to my heart. It is a show, his name is Cy Lewin, very important artist. I was told about years ago because I'm friendly with Archie Rand. Not Archie Rand, he's a friend of mine too. This was curated by Art Spiegelman, who did Mouse, the famous, and that, Sherelle, make sure you put in their Mouse so they can see it. He did one of the most famous pieces on the Shoah, looking at mice, and it's called Mouse. And I'll give you a great story about him. He and I were on a panel discussion at the 92nd Street Y with Amai Wallach, talking about two very different Jewish artists, me being an abstract painter and a conceptual artist who also does ceremonial objects, and Art Spiegelman being very famous for doing cartoons, and both of how our Judaism came into our work. And he said, I'll be on the panel with you, Toby, but you have to know that every 20 minutes I need a cigarette break, and you'll be on the stage alone with Amai Wallach. And I said, I'll do it. And she said, so Amai called me and said, is it true that you said that art can leave the stage every 15 minutes? I said, yeah, he's an addiction and he's got to leave the stage for smoking. One of the finest artists I've ever met. I adore his work and I love what he did for this other artist. So this is a 2-minute video.
Cy Lewin was a Polish Jewish refugee and artist who lived in the United States. His work, The Parade, a series of drawings he made in preparation for a wordless novel published in 1957, draws inspiration from Lewin's longstanding interest in cinema, the traditions of the graphic novel, as well as his early life in Europe, and experience as a soldier enlisted with the United States Army during World War II. With stark lines and clarity, and without a single word, Lewin articulates a nuanced understanding of cycles of violence. The artist was born during the final days of World War I. The armistice parades after that conflict, the rise of Nazism, and the brutal violence of World War II and the Holocaust all inform his haunting tale. This body of work speaks to the seductive glory and rhetoric of military parades, followed by soldier enlistment, community deprivation, the horror of war, devastating destruction, death, and heartbreak. The story ends where it begins, an eternal cycle of violence. The first drawings in the book capture the groundswell of pride and patriotism as children and adults gather to cheer for a military parade. As the narrative progresses, men again march in line, this time to combat. Bayonets pierce bodies, emaciated animals seem to scream in agony, and prisoners are kept and killed behind barbed wire fences. To make these drawings, Lewin prepared illustration boards with a layer of gesso, which provided a certain depth that allowed the artist to scratch into the surface. Lewin used a palette of black and white, which mirrors his observation that war removes color from the world. Lewin's drawings were made after World War II, a conflict in which he served on behalf of the United States. The drawings are grounded in the events of the Holocaust while also evoking atrocity across time and place. They function as a warning about the cyclical nature of violence, a message as potent today as it was in 1957 when the book was published.
All right, so now we're going to see the show that's at the gallery right now. It already closed, but I wanted to put it up for you anyway. It's a beautiful installation, and they did it very similar to the way it was done at the de Menil. So go back up, and I want you to walk through the gallery. So go here. I want you to see the scale. So they painted the walls gray, which I think is beautiful, and very often for photography or black and white work, it's good to have a wall that's gray so it pops off the wall more. He did not think of these as museum shows. I wish this had happened while he was alive. But he looked at these as studies for the graphic novel that he did. Interesting. It does remind me of the South African William Kentridge again. And I love the way he uses the material on the paper. It's just beautifully articulated. And the gallery hung it so well. So there are different rooms you go into and see the works, and then you'll see some paintings in the other room. Let's keep going. That painting is so gorgeous. It's a big collage painting. Shirel, did you know his art?
No.
No, so he's not well known. I'm happy that you told me, because I think I think in Israel he would do great. I could see this show at the Tel Aviv Museum. But he's very important to graphic novel people that are not necessarily Jewish. But now he's getting this show has done wonders for him. It got a full page in the Times. So I wanted you to see this show. It's just, look, yeah, go up close. It's so powerful. The collage element is so amazing. It looks like he could be an African artist. Many of my students said to me, are you sure he's Jewish? And I said, no, I know he's Jewish. Yes, he's Jewish. He's also European. He's not of African descent. Those beautiful pieces on the wall there's 7 right next to it. Those are gorgeous. And they're very subtle. They make me think of Dubuffet. I mean, he's of his time, but never lived the high life of the artist. All right, we have one more show. I'm watching my time. I'm very nervous. I have 11 more minutes, right, Shirel? Yes. 10. Oh, good. Sorry. This to me is I wanted to end with this because he's such a character. He's a Cuban artist who lives in Miami. And just listen to the way he talks about, well, you'll hear this. This is hysterical. And then I'll show you the show.
Ahí lo pones en loop hasta que se repite y se repite y se repita. Most of the work that you see at the ICA, they are work made before I have my family. For me, painting and working is because of them now. I was for 3-4 months resting, thinking, charging my battery, charging my desires to put that energy in the mural. The wet wall drawings that is at the ICA, for me, this is the most important piece of the show. My wet drawings are based in the 5 fundamental elements of life. That is in this order: the vagina, the breast, the mouth, the penis, and the anus. This element of model has been developed through years, talking 30, 40 years of development. The only thing that I never could do in painting is just to make the line as the protagonist. Specifically at the mural at the ICA, I use the Japanese brushes that allow me to go from thin to a stronger line as well, and develop human-like elements, orgiastic drawings full of these 5 elements in a very democratic way, meaning no complaint for any sexes, no female, no male. So this balance is intentionally put in a drawing.
So now we're going to see the show he has up right now down. And that's wait, see that? You should see that. I apologize. I shouldn't have stopped yet. Yeah. So put the paintings on top. So this is the show on right now. Now I get a kick out of that now his career is really, he's doing really well again. He was a real character, and they're very beautiful and they're very funny. But they have a little bit, like when you look at it, you'll say, oh my God, that looks like a looser or a stranger version of Jackson Pollock. And it is and it isn't, but it also makes me think of Joan Mitchell. But his mark making is quite beautiful. It's very exuberant. I also think it's funny that he only got married recently, and now his whole career has totally changed because now he's wanting to sell his work to pay for his family. So beforehand, he was more like of a just do whatever you want thing. And now he's decided to make paintings that can look beautiful in homes and museums. I think it's a beautiful show. But I wanted you to hear him talk. He's a character. So with our few minutes left, so that's the whole show. Very beautiful show. Can I show them? I think we have an installation shot. So you see they're very large. They're like 6 feet by... Where is that the menu? Let me see. Let me see if it comes there. No, all right. So the pieces are like 6 feet by 12 feet. Installations. There it goes. There it is. Thank you. I love you, Sherelle. So you'll see that they're really large and they're really quite beautiful. I walked in there and you feel like you're swimming in seaweed type of things. It's very plant-like, very different. And the reason I wanted to end with him and start with Jim Dine, you're in a field where everything's moving, and this is more almost like spaghetti. All right, now we have 4 minutes left. I'd love to hear some questions. Thank you all for being so nice and patient, and I hope you enjoyed today. I love preparing for it, and I think it was very different than the last one that we did.
So first of all, chat is now open for everyone. So if people want to comment or ask, you can put it in the chat for everyone. Tobi, I will say that I had a question about the piece just behind you.
That's one of my best friends. That's Leonardo Drew. He's been, he's, I think, one of the greatest living artists. Which one, the sculpture or the painting? Of the work on the wall?
Work on the wall.
So that's Leonardo Drew. Really, I consider him my brother. He has a beautiful new sculpture that he just did, but that's his work. And that was from a segment of the piece that was at the Met. An amazing.
I think we had a program with you.
You did. He's one of my best friends. Yes.
I'll attach it to the follow-up email so
great.
People can hear about it more.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Tobi, one question. Is there, if you had to say, what is the current kind of spirit hovering over exhibitions in New York right now? If you had to name something, are you seeing any common thread or trend, or is it just all over?
Right now, the thing that I think is most interesting is they're looking for artists who are not artists of color, non-American. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean Israeli. I'm sorry to say that's a whole other narrative I can't go to right now. But a lot of women who are not alive anymore. There is a lot of a stress of looking for artists that wouldn't usually be in the main conversation. I have never seen more interesting exhibitions than in the last few years. But again, there are many artists who are using different materials. A lot of people from Africa, from South America, from not necessarily artists from New York or LA or London or Paris or Italy. It's more from places that were not considered the art capitals. And there are a lot of people that are younger, and there are also a lot of dead artists, women artists. And I think I've been showing them. I try very hard to show you what I think more people are discussing. And I also try and show you that it's not only about typical painting or typical sculpture. It's about drawings. It's about sewing. It's about photography as installation. It's about conceptual art. It's a very varied time. There is no one specific thing. Now, I also thought it was important to show you Philip Pearlstein, because he's not what you would call typical, but right now people are interested in him. So that's, I think it's a very exciting time to look at art, because not every show is the same. That to me is the most important. And what I'm trying to do for you when I do a program, I try and show you, I try not to have any artist that you will mix up with another artist in that day. But I will tell you, and I told this to Ari, if I knock it down to 6 or 7 shows, then maybe 20 I want to show you. And what I like is a lot of the shows I show are then reviewed in the Times, or I prepare this usually more than a week in advance. So I'm happy to say that the shows have gotten a lot of attention.
Beautiful. Tobi, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. It's lovely to have you and to go on this virtual tour with you. And we're looking forward to seeing you in future programs.
Can I ask everyone just to let me know before we sign off, was there enough diversity for all of you? Is there anything you wish I'd done more of? I'd love to know, because I try very hard to make it as diverse as possible. Any
people are thinking, I'll just mention that also very timely, as now is Erev Yom HaShoah in Israel. It's Holocaust Remembrance Day, Eve today and tomorrow the day. And if you want a little more information about that, you can also check out CSP's Facebook page. We put up there a very special playlist for today and this week. And I'm seeing here, Tobi, your presentation was well balanced, which I think, and there's here a request more on Jewish background. I think when available, you definitely gave it today. So it was beautiful also to hear. Yeah, so it seems, yes, I'm seeing the comments are slowly coming in. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tobi.
It was a treat. I love it. I try and anytime there's a good Jewish artist and that has a background, I put them in. In other words, that's my only teeny bit of favoritism. Anyone who's really doing something interesting in the Jewish vernacular, I move them to the top of the class. But I want to show you, I take this very seriously, showing you what the best exhibitions are.
Absolutely. Okay, I just had here one request for the playlist in our Facebook post. So let me just put that in the chat before I sign off. But also, if you're not following our Facebook page, please do so. I'm trying to see. Okay, I don't know how to send you a direct link to that. So I am putting here in the chat the link to our Facebook page, and you can see there the post with the link to our special playlist. Tobi, thank you very, very much. Thank you, everyone. If you're not on Facebook, just email me, okay? And I'll send you the things directly. Okay. Toda rabba, everyone. Thank you. Have
Ariel, you're a treat to work with, and I love that you write notes and then you send them all this extra information. You're amazing.
It's the CSP way. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.